So, after 8 seasons, hundreds of hours of television, intricate plotting, thousands of deaths, and the death of not one, but 2 tyrant queens, Bran is the one that sits on the Iron Throne. Not exactly who everyone thought would end up ruling the 7 kingdoms, but okay.
All hail, Bran the Broken!
God, I get it, I'm broken. Does everyone have to keep bringing it up? Regardless of if you feel Bran was a good choice or not, almost everyone probably felt that Jon Snow would have made the best choice to sit as king of the realm. And many more were frustrated that that wasn't how the show ended. I mean, at the end, Grey Worm was the only one that was really pissed off about Jon Snow, and the council could have totally overruled him. And while the show tried really hard to make us understand why Dany couldn't sit on the throne, everything in the series seemed to signal that Jon would end up ruling the 7 kingdoms.
And I will stand behind Jon Snow. The king in the north!
Yet, I believe that the show has also made it pretty clear why Jon couldn't have the throne either, and actually did so in a more subtle and effective way than they did Dany. So let's dive into why Jon Snow doesn't deserve the throne. Now, when I say Jon doesn't deserve the throne, I don't mean he wouldn't actually have made an excellent and magnanimous ruler. Indeed, exactly the opposite. He would have made a great king of the 6 kingdoms. No, when I say Jon doesn't deserve the throne, I mean that if he had ever sat on the Iron Throne, it would have been the best thing for Westeros and the worst punishment for Jon. In the series finale, we are reminded of the 2 core values that Jon has wrestled with his entire life: love and duty.
Love is the death of duty.
Throughout the entire series, Jon has been made to know that love is the death of duty, that caring for others is distracting from what needs to be done. And Jon has always felt that he needed to fulfill his duty at the expense of love ever since we first met him in the very first episode. Initially, as the seeming bastard son of Ned Stark, Jon felt it was his duty to stand aside for the other full-blooded Stark children. We see this in the plot by the fact that Jon decides to go and join the Night's Watch instead of following the Starks towards King's Landing. But we also see it symbolically in one of the first scenes of the series, where Jon allows all the other Stark children to have pet direwolves.
There are no direwolves south of the wall.
Now there are 5.
He even points out that there are only enough for the Stark children.
Lord Stark. There are 5 pups. 1 for each of the Stark children. The direwolf is a sigil of your house.
By doing this, he is symbolically sacrificing his chance to be considered part of the family, to take part in the love that the rest of the Stark household seems to enjoy. He only gets ghost when someone notices the runt of the litter.
Runt of the litter. That one's yours, Snow.
From the very start, we see Jon putting duty above his chance for love. Later, he feels a sense of duty to the Night's Watch. He takes his vow to have no titles or father no children. He will guard the realm no matter what. This is his duty. At the end of the first season, he faces his first real challenge. When he hears Ned was killed, he races off to fight for his brother's banner. Yet his Night's Watch brothers pull him back by echoing the words of their vows. And once again, Jon chooses duty over his love for his family and goes back to the Night's Watch.
I pledge my life and honor to the Night's Watch for this night and all nights to come.
Later, Jon falls in love with the wildling Ygritte. They share a strong bond, perhaps the first true love that Jon has had in his life. In fact, it's the only time Jon's love has been fully and completely reciprocated. However, here too, Jon decides to follow his word, defending Castle Black and killing Ygritte, despite it going against everything his heart tells him to do. Over and over and over again, Jon chooses to follow his duty over love. He gives up his title as king in the north, the belief, the trust, and love of his people, to ensure that Dany will help him defend the north from the Night King. He sends Ghost away to Castle Black because he knows the south is the wrong place for the direwolf. He tells Sansa and Arya about his lineage, knowing it will push him away from his love, Dany. Time and time again, he chooses duty. It's who Jon is. And while it probably was the right thing to do, it's also probably what kept him alive to this point. We see the consequences of if one chooses love over duty through Robb Stark. Robb is very similar to Jon. He's a good person through and through. But instead of staying on the track of taking back the North for the Northmen, Robb gets distracted by love. It causes him to shirk his duty, and it's this specific choice that gets him killed. In any other world, Robb choosing love over duty would be okay. Yet this is Westeros, and for those in power, duty must come before love. So in the final episode, Jon feels that strong sense of duty. He must kill the Mad Queen, the woman he cares about more than anything, for the betterment of the realm. He understands that this must once again be his sacrifice, and he does it. Yet I also think he sees everything that comes after that. He's been told over and over and over again by everyone around him that he would make a great ruler, that he would be both kind and wise.
But what I tell you now is true. You will rule wisely and well, while she
is my queen.
We as an audience not only believe this as well, but we expect this of him. We expect him to be the one on the Iron Throne because he clearly is the best choice for it. There are even many fans who believe that Jon was supposed to be the prince that was promised. It's his destiny. This is what we have all been promised. Jon was promised to us. Yet, in his final talk with Tyrion, Jon learns something different. That maybe it's not that love is the death of duty, but that duty is the death of love.
Sometimes, duty is the death of love.
One of the central ideas of A Song of Ice and Fire is how isolating power becomes. All those who seek power, or who gain it, will eventually find themselves alone. After all, only one person can truly sit on a throne. Robert Baratheon lived in a world of wine and whores, not truly loved by even his own wife. Ned had to leave Catelyn Stark in order to become Hand of the King. Cersei lost all of her children and the support of her lover. Tyrion loses the only woman he loved and the entirety of his family. Dany lost everyone she cared about, from her 2 dragons to Jorah to Missandei, as well as the love of the people of Westeros in her quest for power. Over and over and over again, we are reminded that power and duty is the death of love. This is something that Jon's own father and mother knew all too well. It's why Rhaegar Targaryen gave up the throne to be with Lyanna, so that he could love in peace without duty. This reversal of concepts, that it's not love that kills duty, but duty that kills love, is powerful. And this is probably the most important subversion for Jon in the final episode. If we take a second look at Jon's entire life story, we see that Jon has always been searching for love. He's never felt properly loved by anyone. Ned cared for him, sure, and did love him in a way, but from a distance. Jon wants to be part of the Stark family, to be part of any family. Yet he never can feel truly like he belongs, because he is a bastard.
What about you?
I'm not a Stark.
Later, when he wants to run off to fight for Robb, his duty pulls him back. When he wants to be with Ygritte, he knows he has to save Castle Black. He wants to care for the North, but he must protect all of the living first. Jon has never been allowed to love, despite that being the thing he wants more than anything, and he can never have it. How cruel a fate is that? So, for Jon to have ended up on the throne would have been great for the realm, but also terrible for Jon. It would have placed him in the most isolated he could have possibly been, furthest from the thing he needed most, all because it was what his destiny told him to do. Say what you will about Bran, but he's already isolated and he doesn't seem to care. It's why I think Jon being sent back to the Night's Watch at the end of the series is the happiest ending he could have ever had. Without Dany and Ygritte alive, the only place that Jon has ever truly felt love was at the Wall, or beyond it. All the way back in season 1, the reason that Jon didn't go off to fight for Robb was because of his brothers. And I use brothers in every sense of the term. They cared enough to go running out to stop him. Jon also found brotherhood with Tormund and the Wildlings. Jon belonged with the Night's Watch and the Wildlings in a way that he never belonged anywhere else. Why do you think that the only time that Jon got to have his moment with Ghost was at the Wall? It's telling that the last shots of Game of Thrones mirror the first, but are different in very distinctive ways. In the first episode, we have 2 lone men going out to meet their death at the hands of an ancient undead. These men are all alone against an empty, desolate landscape, yet they go off to their duty. In the last shot of Game of Thrones, we see a very similar shot, but instead the land isn't empty, but showing signs of life. Instead of just 2 lone men, Jon is walking with people he cares about, a family, alongside young children very much enjoying life. And in the end, Jon walks off, having earned the love that he yearned for, now that his duty has ended. What do you think? Should Jon have sat on the Iron Throne? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos on pop culture like this one, give my channel a subscribe. And if you want to make these videos even better, consider giving some money to my Patreon page. Every little bit counts, especially right now as I'm currently going through a bit of a personal emergency at the moment. And until next time, live long and prosper.